So much. The new Omicron variant is also fueling a fresh politicization of the pandemic. Texas Congressman and former White House physician Ronny Jackson claimed this weekend Democrats are using the new Omicron variant to push mail-in voting and, quote, cheat in the midterms. Joining us now, CNN chief political analyst Gloria Borger and CNN political commentator Scott Jennings. Scott, thanks for being with us. Gloria as well. Scott, I want to start with you. I'm not going to ask you to defend that unless you agree with them, and then feel free. But the strategy of using what could be, and we don't know, an important change in the pandemic here in the U.S. as a political weapon, is that what's coming from the rest of the party, or is he out on a limb by himself?
I think he's out on a limb. I mean, I think what everyone hopes and prays for is that this variant, comes and goes and is mild and doesn't dramatically change our trajectory, which is that the vaccines work and they will continue to work and we can get back to normal life someday. I do think what he's tapping into, though, Victor, is that a lot of Republicans believe that during the pandemic, a lot of voting laws were changed to accommodate the pandemic and that we were all, trapped inside. And a lot of Republicans believe Democrats want to put those into law permanently, even if the pandemic goes away. And so that's what he's tapping into. And I suspect he won't be the only Republican you hear sort of giving voice to that general concern.
Gloria, just to remind people, this is the former White House doctor, and he was found in a Pentagon Inspector General's investigation to have been drunk, intoxicated, impaired on the job. So I'm not sure how much stock anybody should put in his medical opinions. But, of course, now he has constituents that I assume will listen to him.
Sure. I mean, look, sure he does. I mean, just like a Gosar or Marjorie Taylor Greene or Boebert. I mean, these are people who just want to stir the pot. They want to make Donald Trump happy. They want to continue to bring up the big lie because it gets them attention. And you have a leader in the House, in Kevin McCarthy, who refuses to publicly tell them to shut up, honestly. And so they go on. He may talk to them privately. He may say, you shouldn't have done that. You should apologize. You've got to go out and say something. But he hasn't gone out there and said, this is not what our party stands for. The Republican Party, he should say, doesn't stand for rigged elections. The Republican Party stands for free and fair elections, and I believe Scott would agree with that. But McCarthy is not willing to chastise these people publicly.
Gloria, let me stay
I
with you.
can actually comment on that, Gloria.
Go ahead, Scott.
I do think, I think it's a good conversation, because I think as a strategic matter, what McCarthy is wrestling with is what's the best way to deal with it if your goal is behavior modification. I think in some cases, as Gloria said, these people who like to stir the pot, they're actually hoping for the establishment or for the leadership to come down on them publicly, because then it gives them the ability to say, look, the establishment in Washington, the swamp is after me. And so one of the things I've heard from the leadership circles is that they're trying to handle some of these things more privately in the hopes of getting behavior modification down the road and sort of avoid getting into the, into the tit for tat that ultimately maybe what some of the, you saw Boebert the other day, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Dr. Jackson. These people may be actually trying to provoke one of these sort of public back and forth because they think that actually helps them more, if somebody from the leadership comes down on them.
But is McCarthy's goal behavior modification, or is it just to be speaking? Is he staying away from criticizing these people?
I think they're both, because
but is he staying away from criticizing the Boeberts for her Islamophobic joke about Ilhan Omar, or Gosar's video, or Marjorie Taylor Greene's Pick One? Because he does not want to alienate that portion of the party and those votes he'll need. Actually, Nancy Mace, member of the conference, talked about what she'd like to see from leader McCarthy.
Responsibility to lower the temperature, and this does not do that. I didn't come to Congress to throw bombs on Twitter, to take advantage of people by saying crazy things to raise money, or to be a comedian. I'll leave comedy to Dave Chappelle. I was disappointed in the comments. I was encouraged to see that she did apologize for the.
But you do condemn this comment from Congressman
Boebert?
Oh,
absolutely, 100%.
So you've got a moderate in the party, Gloria, who's saying he needs to come out and condemn it, and she does, even if he doesn't.
Right, and look, she couldn't have been more clear. This is ridiculous. This is not what she wants the party to stand for. But McCarthy's got Donald Trump on one side, who loves Marjorie Taylor Greene, endorses Gosar, for example, and he also doesn't want to alienate Donald Trump, who believes he's the wizard behind the curtain, and he may well be. Who knows? And, you know, I remember with my kiddies, you know, you could put them in the corner for a timeout, and we talk about behavior modification, and you could hope, well, maybe that would work. But very often that didn't work until you did it a bunch of times, until the caucus, the Republican caucus, does it as a whole a bunch of times, saying this doesn't reflect well on us. But we haven't seen that either. And maybe people want to just sort of close their eyes and say, well, this isn't really happening, and we don't want to give them the attention, the oxygen that Scott's talking about. But at a certain point, you have to say, as the Congresswoman said, this is not what we came to Congress to do.
Yeah, and also we should say that Governor, Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson is also calling out some of this hateful rhetoric, Scott. I mean, I just think it's interesting when you hear Republicans start to say that they're disgusted by this and being able to say it out loud. And I mean, I think he speaks for all of us when he says that the goal should be to bring back civil discourse. A lack of civility is increasing the divide in this country. So I think we have time to play this. Let me just play it for you, Governor Hutchinson.
Even in our own caucus, our own members, if they go the wrong direction, I mean, it has to be called out. It has to be dealt with, particularly whenever it is breaching the civility, whenever it is crossing the line in terms of violence or increasing the divide in our country.
Scott, do you think it's notable that we're hearing from, it seems like, more Republicans, elected officials now?
I do think it's notable. I mean, Nancy Mace, Governor Hutchinson. I mean, look, I've talked to a number of Republicans over the last several days. Nobody goes into public office to then have to turn around and spend a huge chunk of their time, you know, defending, you know, comments from people who are dumber than a bag of hammers. I mean, if you think that this is your job as a congressperson, to make up a story and tell a joke, I mean, it's not what most people I know go into politics for. They all believe it's garbage. They all believe it's beneath the Republican Party. And by the way, I think most people believe this decreases our chances of winning elections. And so if you're not in public service for the purpose of passing laws, making changes, winning elections so you can pass more laws, then what in the hell are you doing? And I think that's how most Republican leaders see it. And I do think you're going to see more and more people condemn it because everybody wants Republicans to win the midterms. Everybody wants to take back the White House. And I think most people believe that if the Boebert model is the one we're going to follow, the chances of doing one or both go down drastically.
Well, let's see what Kevin McCarthy does. Let's see if she is ostracized by her own party. Let's see whether in a private caucus, party members stand up and say to her, you have to stop doing things like this because you do not represent my party. And once that happens, and once Kevin McCarthy starts acting like a leader, maybe this ridiculousness will stop.
All right,
Maybe
Gloria
not.
Borger, Scott Jennings, thank you both for the perspective. Sure. Okay, there are big changes in the tech